Hello everyone, Gina here from Belly Beads, here today to bring you a tutorial on my St. Patty's Day tassel earrings. And I had so much fun making these, especially with the tiny beads. Here I have freeforms. That's what I call them on my website. And the green is actually the fillers, and they go between the two patterns. And I'm going to show you here. Let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can use clear Elmer's glue, but I like using the Modge Podge. So I'm going to go ahead and pour some of this into a little cup. Now I like using my finger with this, and of course a glove. So you want to get just a little bit on your finger. You can use a paintbrush. And then I have it on my finger, just spreading it. I like to be a little bit generous with this because it allows it to bond better with the two papers together, and also gives it a great seal. Again, you can use any kind of glue. I just prefer the Modge Podge. Now when you're putting them together, stack them like a deck of cards so they are really even. Sometimes it's a little challenging, but just take your time and you'll get it. Alrighty, so now we have, let's see, it looks like I needed a little bit more there, so want to make sure that all your edges are completely glued down. And also, if you like, you can use a roller. You can use, I have this little spatula. You can use your finger. Okay, so after spreading the Modge Podge, I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to do the back now. I'm going to place the other pattern freeform on the back of the other one. So I'm going to spread some Modge Podge all over it. Like I said, try to get it in all of the sides. And again, stack it like you would a deck of cards. It's really important to do that because the glue makes it a little bit challenging placing it together. All right, there you go. And just press it down with your fingers. Like I mentioned, you can use a spatula, you can use a roller. You can even place it in between two books if you'd like, and keep it overnight to make it more flatter. Okay, there you go. We've got one done. And these are so light on the ear when you wear them. Now I'm going to curl the shape of it. And I use just a plain old pencil. And you want to be a little bit careful. See how that's the glue is now separating. I also did not wait long enough for it to dry. So make sure that the glue is completely dried, it's completely flat. And if it does come up, just put a little bit more glue in between it. And now I'm kind of shaping it into a cone. And there you go. We've got a little cone here. Now you keep pressing it and turning it and curling it as much as you want. And you have a nice perfect cone. I'm going to place some more Modge Podge in between the edges there so they would stick. Now do not take your fingers off of this because the Modge Podge is not thick enough to keep it closed. So I use this little clipper, and there you go. I keep that for a good maybe 20 minutes. Keep checking on it, see what exactly works for you. And I just lay it down and I wait. And then here we go. 20 minutes later, we have a nice cone. This is a honeycomb mat. I got this off of Amazon. It's really great for resin because see the little, it looks like honeycombs. It will seep inside off the edges when you use the resin, so it doesn't get all clumpy on your project. Here is the, I love this UV resin by J. Diction. I do not sponsor them. Just telling you that I really enjoy working with this product. I like to warm it up in some water that is already warm. It allows for an easier flow. when I am pouring it on the project. Now I'm going to prime it first, and the reason I have to prime it is so it becomes the layer becomes a little bit thicker. It's like a barrier between the paper and the UV resin. It's really important that you do this project. In my other video, I show you why. So I had got the Modge Podge, just spreading it all around the cone, picking it up. Always use your gloves if you want to. Modge Podge doesn't bother me too much, so if it does get on my fingers, it's water-based. All right, so then we're going to have this sit for a good another 20 minutes. So that's like a primer, and the primer is very important because the UV resin will certainly seep through it. All right, so let's get to our 4mm paper strips that are sold on my website as well. And I love this color. Now you can use a quilling tool, you can use a paper bead roller tool, but to get them, see how tiny the holes are? I love using the quilling tool. And I condition my paper. Now this is the quilling tool that I love working with, and this is the paper bead roller. The pin on it is a little bit too thick. Even the smallest pin is too thick. So the quilling tool again is definitely my go-to. It allows me to get a really small hole, and it makes the bead a little bit more rounder. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and condition the paper. I usually use my Elmer's clear glue for my paper beads. I find it to be really a good it's very sticky, and I like the way it holds the bead. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll this bead right here. And you want to make sure that it's definitely in the center. If you see the sides being a little lopsided, you want to push them in. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to use some of the Elmer's glue, just a little bit. I only use a little bit on my 4mm. Now, if we were working with a larger bead, I would certainly be very generous. But I like to hold its shape. Now, you don't want to pull it. You want to push it off. And there you go. You've got your beads. I'm going to go do some more, roll some more, and there we go. Now, in this kit, the beads are already glazed. It's already completely done, but I do sell them separately. We're going to get some Modge Podge. We're going to prime the beads like I do all of them. I got a styrofoam pad, and I'm going to place one bead on the toothpick, and I'm going to prime them. I dip my finger into Modge Podge. I like doing it with my finger because I find that it gets around the edges a little bit better. You can use a brush if you like. You don't have to use your finger. And then I just press them into the styrofoam. And then I get the next one, put it on a toothpick. And this Modge Podge goes a long way, especially with the 4mm paper beads. And there you go. Don't put too much. It will come out all white and not good. All right, so we're going to get them ready. They're all done. Here we go. We have all our primed 4mm paper beads all done. It took about maybe 15 minutes for it to dry. I'm going to use my UV resin, and I like warming it up in warm water because it does allow for an easier flow. And then I'm going to grab one of my paper beads. I usually put it directly on there. This kind of saves the resin as well. If I pour it in a cup and I don't use it all, it's really difficult to pour it back in. And then again, I use my finger with a glove on this time. Now remember, this is water-based, but again, if you are allergic to anything, it does not have an odor. You can use your toothpick for the edges. You can use your finger. I like using my finger. I do have my glove on, so I like using my finger. And I spread it all the way around. And then this is going to go in the UV resin light for a good 20 minutes. Now this light here, I'm going to show you because I do sell this on my website. This is a little lamp you can use, but the toothpicks are a little too tall for it. You can cut them down, or the styrofoam, whatever you'd like. Or you can lay it on its side. It depends. I do have a larger UV light. All right, here we go. We're all done, and now they're all nice and shiny. Look how pretty. They're like little glass beads. I love the way these come out. And they're so round, look, they roll right off of my hand. Now these beads were already, this is how they will come in the kit, already done. So all you have to do is put the earrings together and you'll have a nice pretty set by the end of the day. It doesn't take very long. Okay, I'm going to grab my cone. I'm going to place it on top of I'm going to put a toothpick in it and I'm going to place it on the styrofoam because this is where I'm going to place the resin with it. I'm going to put resin all over it. So before I do that, let me just get a hold of the toothpick, or you can use your finger. I mean, whatever's easier for you. And then I go ahead and I pour directly on the cone itself. I'm pretty generous with it. Make sure that you do rub it in or you brush it on. However, I feel like there's brush marks when I use a brush, even the softest brush. Do whatever works for you. This is what works for me is my finger. So make sure though the bottom of it, sometimes resin can pull at the bottom of the cone and it'll create this bubble rim around it. So make sure you're spreading it evenly. And there you go. Now I'm going to place the toothpick, or you can just stand it up like that on top of the silicone honeycomb mat. And you can put the UV light on there. Usually I like to leave it in there for about maybe a minute or two. And again, has to be completely cured. And there you go. It's completely cured. That took about 2 minutes, if that. You don't want to take it out sticky, but it does work very, very quickly. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this all together. Look how pretty all those little beads are. So let's get these all together. I'm going to grab some all different kinds of shapes and sizes. I have paper beads. This is S-lon thread. S-lon is really great. The silver piece, there is a clamper. It's a bead stopper, actually. I have glass beads. I have paper beads, all sizes and shapes. I do like to incorporate the glass beads into it. It gives it a little bit of a dimension to the beads. And then we have seed beads. There are all kinds of beads. So we're going to mix them all together. We're going to thread them onto the S-lon thread. This is about 7 inches long. I'm going to get my ruler. Yeah, it's about 7 inches long. A little bit. Yeah, 7 inches. And we're going to cut that. And then I'm going to use the stopper, the bead stopper, and you just squeeze it together. These are definitely, they save a lot of time, especially when you thread them on and all your beads come off when you don't have it. So I'm going to begin with the smallest, tiniest bead. And see how I cannot thread it through? You have to use an eye pin. I have a very, very large eye pin. And all you have to do is open it up. But if you don't use, let's go back to the stopper. If you don't use the stopper, it can certainly cause a lot of trouble because all the beads are going to fall off. All right, so there's the eye stopper. I mean the eye pin. You're going to place the thread through there like so. And then we're going to start beading. I like using the smallest bead first towards the end, and I'll show you why later on. And make sure all the beads that you do use, it can go through the needle. There's never nothing more frustrating than getting all your beads organized and finding out that the hole is too small for the strand. So you want to make sure. Now these beads already come together, so all you have to do is string them along on the string there on this S-lon, which is so great because I put all these beads together for you, and then all you have to do is just thread them on, just like so. And you can mix and match them however you see fit. You don't want to have too much of one thing, or, it depends on your style, how you want it. But you can't go wrong, and there you go. This is the finished bead, the one strand to the tassel. And I'm going to tie a knot, which I did, if you can see right there. And then I'm going to tie another knot at this end. And this is definitely a lifesaver, because there's 9 strands to the tassel, and you don't want to leave them untied. I usually use a toothpick when I make that knot, and I just bring it down just like so, just like that. It brings it all the way down to the very end of the last bead, which is really nice. It makes it for a really nice finish. And then this together, all this full-size bead still is 7 inches, and there's 9 of them. But you want to go ahead and cut the end of it. So as I showed you what it looks like, the finished product, it has a little tail on it, which really gives it a nice little flair to it. And I'm just giving you an idea of how big the strand is. It's about 4 inches, 3.5, 4 inches. And there's 9 of them. And we want to go ahead now and put them all together. And I'm going to make all of them. And there you go, all completed. Now I have all of them on the bead stopper, so it keeps them under control. Even though they have the knots in them, I still wanted to make sure that I had them under control here. All right, so now we're going to tie them together, and I have a really unique type of trick to do this in. And the string will also come with the kit, that you can tie them all together. And if you find a better way, you can certainly do that. I mean, I have this more S-lon thread, and I usually give you about 6 inches of it. And I'm going to show you how to tie all of them together so they make the tassel. And you want to make sure when you are putting all these together very carefully that they're all lined up perfectly, because when they hang, you can have them hang like some are longer than the others. It depends on what you want your style. You can have them all even at the same lengths, or you can have different lengths. I like them at different lengths sometimes. You want to make sure you want to pull them up like this, just like so. And then I put the bead stopper right there. And then this is my own little trick. You keep turning it and turning it. So now look at this. They're all together. Be careful, because it will unwind. But if you can keep it set right there, it is a challenge. And if you find another way, that's great. Now I do the loop knot. I just go over, make a loop, and then I go underneath the string itself. And if you see, I open up the loop and I put the tails between it. So it's tying it all together in a nice little, and there you go. See how I pull that? And there you go. It's almost like square knotting, but half of a square knot, I guess. And then I pull it. Now this, I just use a regular knot, just tie it, and then just make it more tight. So you want to make sure that it's really secured. And there you go. Just keep tying it. Now S-lon can be burned, and I usually do that, and I'll show you how I do it. I usually cut a little. Be careful how far you cut down. You don't want to untie it and it comes all apart. That's a nightmare. All those beads falling apart, so be very careful. I usually get my lighter, and I get the edge of the S-lon, and if you see how it's shrinking up, and then patting it with something hard, of course, against the metal of the lighter, and that really does secure it. All right, so now we're going to put this all together. We're going to put it through the cone. Now, how are we going to put this through the cone? I'm going to show you also. We're going to get some wire. I'm going to cut this a little bit too, because it's a little too long. You want to measure it inside the cone as well. You don't want it to have anything hanging, any string hanging out of it. All right, so we're going to get some wire. This is 26 gauge wire. And this also comes in the kit too. And then we have our ear wire and the cone. Here we go. And then we're going to put this together. The only thing you do put together is the cone. You do put everything else together. It's the beads that I usually have in the kit. All right, so I have it 7-inch wire, and I make a little loop. Now this is, I use my round nose pliers to make just a little loop, enough for it to catch around this bundle right here, this tassel, because and it is a little bit of challenging, and especially I'm doing this in the air. So as you can see, if I get some of the chain nose pliers and I just try to wrap it around and squeeze it around it. It is definitely easier when you have it on the table, but I wanted you guys to see this up close. Sometimes my camera can get really close, but then it gets blurry, so I thought I'd just bring it to you. And it looks like I'm struggling here, and I am. But I do get it. And then you just go ahead and you keep wrapping it. You can use your fingers and squeeze the wire together around the tassel. There you go. And just keep squeezing it and squeeze it, and you'll see how it starts to gain momentum when you start wrapping it around the entire tassel. All right. And you can hold your tassel with your bent nose bent nose pliers and wrap it around, whatever works for you. Or if you want to hold it, it's whatever you're used to using, whatever you're comfortable with. Sometimes I just use my finger like I am now. Makes it much easier. I just keep wrapping it and wrapping it. There's about maybe 5 wraps to it, and then I thread it through the cone, and then I bring it up just like so. And then I it goes through the hole, and I get my round nose pliers. I make a little loop, and I wrap the wire around the loop, and then start to wrap it around the cone itself. And you just keep wrapping around and around until you achieve the look you want. Now, I really like the bohemian look, and it's kind of like a messy look. But that's me. That's my style. I try not to be too perfect with it. I have fun and just try to make it look as freeform as possible. And we're going to keep wrapping it around. And there you go. It's completely done. Now I like to make it a little bit, I get the other one, and you want to make sure that they look even. And then you can grab some more wire and just keep wrapping it around and wrapping it around. Now I have this little loop that I created, so it gives it a little bit of a style. It's kind of neat. It's not just the wire wrapped all around it. It does have that little style loop in front of it. Okay, and here we go. See how the loops are opposite. Make sure though that you have them exactly the same. Now I'm going to get the ear wire, and I'm going to open up the hook on the bottom there. And I can use a jump ring if I'd like, but I thought just connecting it right to the loop itself, that's to the cone, made it much easier. And then I'm just going to go ahead and close the loop, and there you go. We've got 2 great earrings. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so I can continue to make more content. And comment below, what are your thoughts on this? Have you ever done any tassel earrings? And yeah, let me know. I would love to hear from you. So thank you, and have a great day, and keep creating.